How does this show about an orphan, son of a whore, missed the record and win 11 Tony Awards, turn a one-hit wonder into a household name, and elevate a forgotten founding father to fame? It's the non-stop hip-hop pop sensation, the show about temptation, frustration, starvation, all under the guise of historical education. Everybody give it up for the Broadway musical sensation! You see that? I worked on that. I put actual effort into writing that. Okay, fine. Pathetic attempts at rapping set aside, recently there's been a Broadway show whose popularity has been absolutely unmatched by any show before it. And that show is Hamilton, an American musical. Now, as the baby boomers are quick to know, we are Generation Y, so today on the Analytic, we'll be taking a step back and seeing why it is this show so popular. So, Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote Hamilton, but it's not like it was the first Broadway show he worked on. Before Hamilton, he had In the Heights, and while In the Heights was certainly loved, winning the Best Musical Tony, there's no comparison between its popularity and that of Hamilton. So why is it that Hamilton is more popular? Well, firstly, Hamilton is centered around a historical figure. The first part of any show is finding an audience that wants to watch, and when you're referring to a historical figure, someone that a lot of people already know about, then you kind of already have that audience built in. But Hamilton's popularity can't be confined to that. After all, having people that know who you're talking about is very different from having people who still care to watch. No, I think the real reason Hamilton is so popular is because it taps into an audience that Broadway has, for lack of a better word, ignored. Here, let me explain. As you probably know, Broadway refers to the theatrical performances conducted in 40 professional theaters across New York City, a city with a population of 8 million people, which seems like a lot. After all, it is America's most populated city. However, when you actually do the math, it accounts for a little less than 3% of America's total population. Now, according to the LA Times, the average Broadway ticket costs $100, and according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American earns about $25 per hour, which means that 4 hours of work, which could buy a man 6 days worth of restaurant meals, is instead put towards seeing a theater show, considering you already live near a Broadway theater and don't have to pay even more to get to New York City. All this put together means that, in essence, Broadway just isn't accessible to the 97% of people that don't live in New York and don't have $100 to spare, which has been a detriment to its widespread cultural popularity. For the most part, the only Broadway shows that do get popular outside of New York City are the ones that get film adaptations, like Sweeney Todd or West Side Story, because they are both available everywhere and significantly cheaper than a $100 ticket. Yes, student number one. Well, I don't have the statistics for this, but I'm willing to assume that a good majority of the Hamilton fanbase, A, doesn't live in New York, and B, hasn't seen the show. Which means that it's not just made for the rich, possibly homosexual New Yorkers that make up the Broadway audience. And I don't mean to say that all Broadway shows appeal to this sort of audience, but if you look at something like, say, the Book of Mormon, the only people it's going to attract outside of rich New Yorkers are either A, Mormons, or B, people who hate Mormons, which is still a rather limiting audience considering that Hamilton, being a hip-hop musical about the founding father, has an audience of anyone who's ever taken a US history class and people who like hip-hop, which happens to include teenagers, a good portion of the population, and Hamilton's fan base that usually doesn't have the money to see a Broadway show. They do, however, have the access to the absolute key to Hamilton's popularity, the cast recording, which is not only easily available, but incredibly dense with 46 songs on it, and this is where Lin Miranda comes in. Lin Miranda has admitted that he didn't grow up watching Broadway shows, but rather got to know about them through their cast albums. And this mindset might be the reason why Hamilton's cast album almost stands as a story of its own. Even if you can't watch Hamilton, the cast album gives you the entire story with the emotional impact preserved, making Hamilton not a show that would just appeal to the Broadway audience that was there watching it, but a show that would appeal to the people at home that might never get to be a part of that audience. In the end, the secret to Hamilton's popularity is that instead of limiting its charms to the theater, it brings its story, in full, to the realm of readily available media, allowing both those watching it and those who never will to enjoy it equally. And then last but not least, there's the fact that it's good. Very good. So good in fact that I listened to it while editing this video, and decided to give the musical 3 more videos on this channel. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been The Analytic, and next week we'll be performing an analysis of the beloved musical's main character, Aaron Burr. If you liked what you saw, do subscribe. I'll see you next week.